sure your microphones are on.
Morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the TUD regular board meeting of Tuesday, July 8th. If everyone will rise, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay. It's a public forum time. We would like to welcome the members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board relating to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This section is for comments on items not listed on the agenda. Person speaking during the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes. Or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. While no action or discussion may be undertaken by the board on topics presented in this section, board members are listening carefully to these comments and appreciate your input. Is there anyone that would like to address? Please step up to the podium. Thank you. There you go.
Okay. Hello, I'm back. I was here last week. My name is Bev Britz, and I've been 35 years a ditch domestic up on the Upper Columbia Ditch. So first I want to thank you, Dawn, for the lovely letter you sent to me acknowledging everything that I spoke about last week. That was very kind. So first I have some pictures this time. Yesterday, I met with Ryan Campbell, my supervisor, and a man named Peter Grave from BLM in Sacramento. And we were talking about an issue up on Yankee Hill. And also, there is a clearing. Here are 3 pictures. And people can camp for up to 2 weeks. And quite often, trucks, cars, all kinds of things pull into this spot where the ditch runs right by. So I wanted you to know I've seen shampoo bottles there, toilet paper, all kinds of things in the area of the ditch. So that's just for your awareness. Okay, next. The entrance to Mountain Boy Mine Road at the top of Yankee Hill is right where a pipe, corrugated, big pipe, goes under our road, the very beginning access to Mountain Boy Mine Road. And I noticed that the pipe, it looks like it has a layer of concrete and then the dirt. But I want you to see what's okay, I can get them all at the end. Okay, so the access is pretty rough. Next, last week I mentioned what you call the Upper Columbia chute flume up on Mountain Boy, coming towards Mountain Boy Mine Road. And I noticed that it was in your projects, but it didn't say when this project is going to happen. So I'd like to know that. Next, I know that somebody has been appointed or is working on the bridge, the board that I mentioned last week that's broken. And I just want to point out that there is an electric line about a quarter mile out on that same ditch that looks like it crosses over the ditch, and I just thought that needs to be somebody's attention. Next, at the end of that ditch where the broken board is in the bridge, 2 miles out from the pond, there is another pipe. And the other way to get to it is to drive straight up Old Oak Ranch, not make a right towards the main canal, but straight up, and there's a trail that you can go down to this spot. Can't quite see the. Okay. That's that about problems. So I mentioned that over the last couple of months, my husband and I did every single stretch of the ditch, the trails that could get us to Pinecrest, to the dam. The stretch from the Pinecrest Lake Dam is rather rough going towards Cooper Meadow. So we skipped that. And last week, between this, since the last meeting, we drove out Herring Creek Road. It's a long ways, and we parked at, what is it called? Cooper, no, not at Cooper Meadow. I forget the name. At a parking area, and then we walked 2 miles in to Cooper Meadow. And our goal was to complete this by seeing the source of our watershed, which comes from the backside, we're facing this way, the Three Chimneys, which we can see from our deck in Columbia. And I just want to say that it was beautiful. I recommend it to you. It's a great trail, and the water is delicious. We filtered it. And there's a cool historic cabin that's over 100 years ago.
Three chimneys in it.
And yes, and there's not a lot of water. I don't know what determines what's a lot of water coming down and what's not, but I thought I'd share those pictures with you. It was worth every step we took. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Randy Hanvelt. I'm here representing TUCARE. Most of you probably know who TUCARE is, Tuolumne County Alliance for Resources and Environment. We focus on supporting prudent use of our natural resources, water, our forests, our grazing lands, our mining, those kinds of things. And we do a lot of things. Sometimes we play political advocate for the right things to happen, both in Sacramento and Washington, writing letters and calling congressmen and senators and assembly members. We do a lot of education, mostly with young people, but also with adults. Try to teach them about our natural resources and what goes on. And we do tours, and some in the ranches, some with the sawmills, some with the dams and horse ranches and different things. Mostly to teach the kids what it really means about your natural resource and how to do that. We also have sponsored for some time a community wildfire protection plan where we took donations from the public and we used those donations to help build fire safe issues around the county, extending fire breaks where they wouldn't be otherwise extended, and work with the Fire Safe Council and individuals. In fact, Mr. Ringen, we worked with him to help him do some of that kind of thing. So I came here with 3 requests. We're not on the agenda, but if you'd like to put us on the agenda, I'd be glad to bring our executive director here and give you a more thorough presentation on TUCARE and what it does. But I have 3 requests. First one is there's a great void, inappropriate void in our membership, and it's TUD. You used to be members, but you're not now. So my first request is that you rejoin TUCARE. Now, this will break your budget. It'll cost you $130 a year. You probably have to, you might have to consider a rate increase. I don't know. Anyway, that's the first request. I mean, it seems inappropriate that the major water purveyor in our county is not a member of TUCARE when we're out there promoting water issues and the right proper use of water. Second one is you're not on our tour list for educational program with kids and adults. And so I'd like you to appoint an appropriate member of your staff to work with us to develop tours in your facility so people can understand what goes on with water, what you really do, and the experiential education sometimes a lot better than words, as you probably all know. So I'd like you to appoint a member of your staff that would be appropriate to both develop these kinds of tours and work with us to schedule them. The third request is if you become members, we'd like you to appoint a senior member of your staff or maybe even a member of your board to join us on our board so that we have water high on our list and two TUD's issues come up and we can get the proper input to deal with that. So anyway, those are my requests. If you'd like to agendize it, just let me know and we'll find a time where we can come and give you a real presentation. But I do think that TUD needs to be a member of TUCARE. So thank you for your time. Oh, and I'm sorry, I'm going to leave because I am scheduled to be at another meeting at 9 o'clock and I'm late.
Sorry.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Melissa,
Okay, consent calendar. Item number 1, minutes of the special board meeting or regular board meeting of June 24th, 2025. Item number 2, approval of reimbursement claims for director's statement of meetings attended and or travel expenses and claim summary for June 2025.
okay, thank you. Any board member want to pull the item?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, under the expenses, I noticed that Ferguson had about $250,000 worth of things that we bought from them. So I'd like to just get some background on that and just to ensure that we're getting things competitively bid that should be. I'm confident that we are, but just a little background would be helpful.
Yeah, so that is the last piece of the large meter order that we did to convert our meters from the manual meter conversion process to radio read meters. So that was the last shipment related to that project.
I'd kind of like to add in here. As you probably know, I go through that thing fine tooth comb. Don't be surprised at all with some of the amounts, some of the vendors. We have numerous projects that are going on right now. Something that this utility never seen, this county's never seen before. And we have, that's where all this is going. And so don't be surprised by it all. That's progress. We like progress.
Absolutely. No, I fully support that. It just
No,
made,
I
it
appreciate you
just
checking.
caught my attention.
No, I appreciate you checking, but I'm just trying to put it in context for you that
No.
don't be surprised. There's a lot of things in there that rolls my eyelids wide open. I go, oh my God. But I know it's because we're getting things done.
No. No.
Anyone else?
Thanks.
If not, I'll open up to public. Any public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
I move we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's no more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Melissa,
Okay, regular business. Item number 3, consideration of 3 resolutions authorizing execution of easement quitclaim deeds to relinquish all rights to recorded easement for water tank and water line purposes, Wolf, Owen, Newberger, and Kirk.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Okay, so as you probably all know, or most here know, the board or the district operates, has a capital improvement plan that gets updated every year, has a bunch of projects that we've been working on. One of the projects that's been recently completed is the Zone 4 tank. Sorry, the Zone 4 tank, also known as the White Fur tank. The Zone 4 tank was, the purpose of the new tank was to replace the old tank, which was very small, very old, and way past its lifetime. That tank, again, has been, the new tank has been constructed. The old tank has been abandoned and all the infrastructure. There was a little pump station there. All that's been removed. The ground has basically been restored to the property owner's satisfaction. The old tank was on private property on 3 different parcels or 3 different lots. And it existed on easements that we obtained from our predecessors. And now that the facility has been abandoned and demolished, we're looking to quitclaim these easements because they're no longer needed. Operations and engineering have looked to see whether these easements could have purpose in the future, and we found that there is no purpose. So we're just looking for you to support these resolutions so that we can get these quitclaims recorded.
Yes. You don't have any questions? Okay. Anyone else? You do.
Just a clarification for folks that may not understand what a quit claim is. Maybe just
Sure.
expand on that a little bit.
So in order for the district to have a utility on private property, it needs to be within an easement. Sometimes there's standard public utility easements that are recorded with your property, like a lot line easement. Sometimes there's special easements that are recorded, in this case, like this one, that are not along the lot lines that kind of traverse through the middle of a property. In order to get rid of that easement, you need to do a quitclaim. And it needs to be recorded. And every quitclaim should reference the easement being quitclaimed. So, and you'll see in the quitclaims, they reference the original document numbers. Yeah, and you have to go to recorder's office and get it recorded.
Any other questions? Well, I've got a comment. I hope we don't have any more of these to do. I have never seen so much paperwork in my whole life to give property back, or give property, yeah, I guess you'd call it back to the original owners. I think we got about half a forest in paperwork there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Not to mention, I don't know what took in staff time and filing fees and everything else, but wow.
Well, our filing fees are free, so public
well,
agencies,
thank
so
God for that.
that's good. That does take time. I will say, this little map that I did was something I had done a while ago. I was asked, hey, what easements do we have? And I started looking through, and at that time, I realized this is really complicated to understand what's happening here. And so I actually put together this drawing, and we put it on our base map, so it was easier to understand. So then it was fairly easy for me to put this together from that point, but it does take time, Ron. You're
I
right.
thank you for your efforts because it was
Thank you.
to get through and so on, but I was just amazed at the amount of work that had to go in order to just make this finally be right for everybody. So did you have a question?
I do, yeah. Since you brought that up, that's a good point. And you're right, it is a lot of paperwork, and I agree with you. Coming from the title insurance industry, though, it is a necessary evil. And to Director Jacobs' comment, a quitclaim deed in layman's terms is just, we're washing our hands of it, quit claiming it. We don't have more claim to this anymore. Or we're done with it. So makes it clean, sets the record straight the way it should be. And good job, Antonio.
Sir.
Any other questions on the board?
Comment.
Yes.
I also see that that was a lot of paperwork, and thank you for doing that, Antonio. That's, we're being good neighbors, and it wasn't easy to do. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
I'll just make a comment that, and you know this firsthand and real well, but for the audience, TUD's only been around for 32 years or so now, some number like that. And we inherited a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, hundreds of different things we inherited, and many of those things that this sort of language wasn't cleaned up. And so here we are 30 years later trying to, correct some issue, and we can't find the property lines. We can't find who owns it, if we own it, if somebody else owns it. So this is us just learning from that lesson and trying, it's tedious work. It's not the funnest work we'll ever do here, but it's the important stuff. So that 30 years from now, somebody's not gonna go through a headache like we're going through on a regular basis around here. So I appreciate the support and making sure we do finish these projects completely. Thank you.
Great. Any further questions or comments?
No, it's well done.
Yes.
Well, just curious, the Sugar Pine water district, Sugar Pine Mutual, was it?
Mhm.
How long ago did we acquire that? Curious, ballpark, just roughly,
Before my time, so mid-90s.
the nineties, yeah, yeah. So it just so happens that my family used to live at the other end of White Fir during the tenure of Sugar Pine, so it's
It just so happens
kind of curious.
just so happens my grandfather was on the board of the Sugar Pine Mutual Water. Lived on
love it.
Manzanita.
I love it.
All right, just, any more? If not, then I'll open up to the public. Anyone have any questions or anything? If not, then I'll bring it back to the board for some sort of action.
I'll move to adopt the 3 resolutions approving execution of the easement quitclaim deeds to relinquish all rights, recorded easements for water tank, water line purposes.
Melissa, what is that? Do we have a resolution number on that?
We have 3 resolution numbers, 7-25, 8-25, and 9-.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
I will second that.
Okay, there's no further comments or anything? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Antonio. And, let's see, where do we go here? Melissa,
Okay, regular business, item number 4, report to the board regarding annual water wastewater capacity charge increase history.
All right, well, I'm back. So I'm going to go ahead and just read, I think, this one. So state law, Government Code Section 66013, along with the district's water rules and regulations and wastewater ordinance, requires the collection of water and wastewater capacity charges. These charges must reflect the reasonable cost of providing service. As part of its ongoing commitment to fiscal responsibility, the district reviews and updates connection fees and capacity charges periodically. In this case, the discussion will be annually. In 2015 and 2016, the Board of Directors adopted amendments to the district's water rules and regulations and wastewater ordinance, establishing a policy to index the capacity charges to a 3-year running average of the Engineering News and Record 20 city construction cost index. This approach, we do this annually. This approach ensures that the charges remain equitable and adequately fund the replacement of capacity used by applicants. I think what's also important, what I like about it, is that it provides a lot of certainty for the developer or the applicant. And I'll get to it a little bit here. So what else I need to cover here? So, okay. So I'm going to turn your attention to the table. And so the first thing I want to point out on the table is the colors. So the blue is water and the green is sewer. And there's 2 green ones because one is the septic charges, which we'll get to last. The other thing I want to draw to your attention is the dark line on the right-hand side of each table. So that represents the point where basically the capacity charges I started collecting when I first got here in 2013. And that line represents the point where we started going to this annual increase. And you'll see that, when we first reevaluated the capacity charges, we had a pretty big jump. And that's because the capacity charges hadn't been reviewed in quite some time. And the whole basis for them was sort of redone at that time as well. And then, instead of, $1,400, we're looking more around, a couple $100 to $250 a year increase for water and something similar for sewer. So again, at that time I had several contractors who were pretty bummed out to see the difference. That's a pretty meaningful amount of money, when you're looking at it from a contractor's perspective. So the current rates will go all the way over to, well, let me go back. So in our ordinance, it says that these capacity charges will be capped at 3.5%. So if inflation as related to the construction cost index goes up a lot, which it did right after COVID, and during COVID, it will never exceed 3.5%. You'll see in the footnotes, I think one of the years in '24, it went to 4.86%. In '25 fiscal year, it was 5.22%. So again, it softens the blow a bit. And I think that we just exceeded again this time too as well. So the current capacity charges right now are for single-family residents are $9,257 when you include the administrative and meter set fees. And for sewer, it's $6,899. In sewer, we have also a lift station adder. So if your property flows through a lift station, you also pay this capacity charge. In some cases, people might flow, like in Parrots Ferry, they might flow through a couple of them. And then we also have at the bottom the septic hauling fees. That's considered a capacity charge for us. And you'll end up seeing eventually, what we did this time was I did break this out into the different elements of the capacity charges. So if you look at water, you have supply, treatment, storage, cap water reserve. And in wastewater, you have collection and transmission, treatment and disposal. I did that just to kind of show you that there is more than just sort of this lump sum. These things are evaluated periodically in great detail. And and I think treatment for sewer is going to be reevaluated now that the regional plant has been completed, as well as the septic hauling. So with that, I'll be entertain any questions. I may have missed something.
Any board member with a question? Okay, well, I guess I would appreciate if you would elaborate in some way, which I hate to put you on the spot because this gets to be kind of a sticky area, but these charges, the way I understand it, are for our actual, when I say our, I'm talking TUD's actual expenses at some point in time. And having been in the housing development, construction, so on, I've heard all the complaints about how expensive it is for to get started on a project and so on because of this sort of stuff. But having also had many years exposure to TUD and what has to go on in order to support the system, I think that if you can, is to explain where this money actually ends up going. I mean, it doesn't go into a great big fat pot. It just goes to wages, benefits, and things like that. That this money is earmarked for specific uses, and it can only be used for that. And I think that that's very important for people to understand, because if we don't have the money to keep up with renewing, renovating, repairing, and being able to install infrastructure for projects as they get developed and so on, then our current ratepayers take it. They take the hit. They're then supporting this new activity, or they're supporting the wear and tear. They're supporting it as it is through their rates every other month, but the overage, the new wear and tear and so on is not being compensated for unless it's through something like this. So if you could maybe elaborate on this a little bit, if you can.
Sure.
I hate
Yeah.
to put you on the spot, but
Nope.
think
I
it's
get this
important.
question all the time, and it's I happily explain it. It's I wish that things could be cheaper for people, but explaining it, I think, helps people understand it. And so if in our wastewater ordinance and water rules and regulations, you'll see an Exhibit E. Exhibit E is multiple pages. It's very detailed analysis and explanation and the basis for all these capacity charges. I got the opportunity when I first started in 13, 14, to sit there in one of the packs where we sat there with the members of the public, and the engineering department presented these Exhibit Es. And the one I like to use the most, because I think it's the easiest to explain, is the water storage element. It's a fairly big number. And the way I explain to customers is that the capacity charge is based upon the cost of the most typical type of water tank that the district has, and that construction cost, which we have numbers for because we've had them constructed, and we continually have those and revise those numbers. But it's that average cost for the ideal tank for the district divided by the number of customers that it can serve. There's a certain amount of capacity that we calculate for fire flow and things like that. And Eric is much better at explaining how he does that. But that's the best way to explain it. I think with the water or the sewer treatment, again, the very generic way I would explain it is that you're going to take the cost of the new regional plant divided by the number of people it can serve overall, factor in a certain amount of the lifespan of that facility. That's generally very generically how you describe it, but the engineers put a lot of effort into it. In the case of the storage tank, they went to the detail of comparing welded tanks versus bolted tanks. They looked at, we had appraisers give us prices for hilltop lots because they're a little bit more, and that's where a storage tank would go. The cost of the fencing, they went to great detail to try and make these as accurate as possible. And every element has been thought out that way. Again, some of them are going to get thought out again as new facilities, Sierra Pines goes into place. And I think the wastewater is coming sooner than the water, and I don't know the time frame for it, but hopefully that's answering your question.
Partly, maybe Carolyn, so once we collect these capacity fees, what do we do with those funds?
So once we collect these capacity fees, they are accounted for as far as an accounting wise function in separate accounts by each type of capacity or connection fee. So whether that's storage, water treatment, all of those various things. So they are accounted for in a separate account, and it's considered restricted. So it has to be used for those specific purposes. So each year at the end of the year, we look at those projects that we've completed and say, are any of these fees that we've collected, are they applicable to these projects? And if so, we then remove that restriction and they can be used for that purpose. So I don't know if that helps on the accounting side.
So thank you for that. I think that anyone listening, that should help explain why some of this is. The only other thing I'll say is that, TUD is doing, is in good shape when we're below 3.5%. But when 3.5 goes over 3.5% inflation, that's where we have to start really being careful because we start falling behind. So this is very, very critical that we keep an eye on this because this is our future. If it can get us in trouble if we're not careful. Any other? Yes, please.
President Ring, just again, I don't know a lot of the history of this, so it's kind of educational for me and maybe some of the newer board members as well. Excuse me. So just curious, when did we cap the 3.5%? When was that implemented?
When roughly between about 2014 for sewer and 2016. So the cap came at the same time as the new capacity charges were adopted.
Okay. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, so I'm just looking at the trend. So from 2023 going back to 2016, 2015, that's a 8-year span. We were good. We were under the cap. But the three most current years, we're, as you mentioned, almost 5%, almost 4%. So I wonder if we might want to revisit that cap. It would be helpful to know how much we're not losing per se, but if we decided to stick with having it based on ENR rates, how much would that benefit the ratepayers in terms of, or how much it would benefit the district if the board decided to change the cap?
Sure, that's the board's prerogative, you know. I just want to reemphasize that, this was a board-driven cap, wasn't
Right.
staff-driven. I'm sure we all worked together. I wasn't in the mix, but if there's a desire, we can bring it to you one way or another. I know that Antonio and the rest of the department are looking at these capacity fees. They need to be updated, so they might be to make sure we have the cart behind the horse. We might want to wait and let's get our capacity fees, updated, and then at the same time we can talk about this cap. It'll give us some time.
Yeah, it's probably not possible to arrive at a number now, but is it 100,000, 500,000? What the just what the impact would be if we didn't have the cap for the last 3 years.
So if someone asked me how many connections do we do a year, I'd say somewhere around 30 to 35.
Oh,
So you
okay.
could look at that
That's not bad.
increase, say the 288, 222, and say, multiply that by 35, and that's kind of the,
So that's peanuts.
yeah.
Peanuts, basically.
Yeah.
Not very much. And then the other thing kind of related is the administrative and meter set fees haven't been adjusted for, it's just a flat fee. It looks like it's $240 for the water and $320 for the sewer, and that hasn't changed in, over a decade.
Right.
So I just wonder if that also about, if it's,
The only one that I've reviewed is the meter set fee. When I looked at the individual parts that comprise that, it didn't change much. And so it didn't really justify coming back to the board. We were kind of holding off to kind of do it all at once.
Okay, but it sounds like perspective wise, it's not a very large amount. If we change the cap or change the administration fee. So that's helpful just to know that. Thanks.
Anyone else? I would say that going along with Director Jacobs is saying is that that we take into consideration, which I know we already are. I don't know why I'm saying this, but just to lay it out on the table, that where we're at, what our plans are in the long run, and if we can keep it at, the idea is not to stifle development. That would be the worst thing that we could do, unless fees just have to be. But if we're holding our own and through our CIP programs, and we're providing, we have a cushion for replacing what we've got, and through our efforts of consolidation and everything else, we can keep it where it's at. I would be all for that, rather than just arbitrarily raising it. And I'm sure you folks are already looking at that really close every day as we move along. So if it starts to slip, then we please let the board know so that we can jump on it and make something happen. But I would want to try and keep things as low as possible to not be the reason that any kind of expansion of our community would be stifled. So, at any rate, I'll leave it at that. Anyone else? Yeah.
So Antonio, said the actual cost down here, it says, was 3.8%, 5.2, 4.8. That actual, is that the ENR, cost? Because I know they're not capped, of course,
Yeah.
they're real.
Yeah, that's the actual percent increase using the CCI.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? No? Yes?
Yep, just curious, how do we handle raw water capacity charges?
So I utilize the supply element up there on the the top row of
Okay.
the blue column.
So
I
that's,
just multiply that by basically a similar amount in terms of gallons, basically. So,
so the supply line item is basically raw water.
yep.
Okay, cool, thanks. I'm done.
Okay. With that, is there anyone in the public who would like to have a question or comment? None? Then, let's see, what do we do with this one here? Yeah, okay, well, then I guess, thank you very much, Antonio.
Antonio?
Q.
And back to you, Melissa.
Okay, staff reports.
I'll be brief. I didn't write anything down, but as I think back, I know that Director Ringen and I have met on a couple of occasions to discuss district business, future agenda items, any opportunities or challenges that are coming our way. And then today is another monumental day for us. We're meeting with Kiewit West Infrastructure, who we hired as our design build team for the new Sierra Pines Regional Water Treatment Facility up in Sierra Pines. And so we met at 0600 hours at the Sonora Water Treatment Plant to just appoint and kind of show them how we do things here. And so for me, this is like the last time I'm ever going to be able to talk like I'm teaching an operator how to be an operator. So it's good for me to get out there. The rest of the TUD teams is out there. All of, a lot of the water treatment, Trevor and Keith Hockett and Eric are out there. So I'm going to go catch up with them as soon as this meeting's over and finish out. It'll be a full day, probably meet with them until 6 o'clock tonight. That's it for me.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, it's back to the board. Peg, you're it.
I have nothing to report.
I just got one thing. Before I start though, Don, I got a question. TUD has a couple of 1-million-gallon tanks, correct? Scattered about? Yeah, just in that neighborhood. Isn't that one up on Greenlee Road? Isn't that 1 million? Oh, it's 3 million. Okay. So where would a 1 million-gallon tank go? Kind of vision. Jamestown? Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because I got a email from State Water Resources Control Board, and I know staff got the same. But it's the proposed revised notification levels for PFOA, PFOS, and PFHXS. I'm not even going to try to read the actual names of those things because I'll hack them up horribly. But anyway, the revised notification level of 4 parts per trillion for PFOA, revised notification level of 4 parts per trillion for PFOS, revised response level of 10 parts per trillion for PFHXS. So a part per trillion. Okay, well, you got to start at 1 million. So you take that 1 million-gallon tank down at Jamestown, and you take a gallon jug like you buy in the grocery store full of milk. And if you pour that into that tank, that's 1 part per million. There's 1 gallon in a 1 million-gallon tank. Then you got to go to billions. So if you took 1,000 of those Jamestown tanks and somehow you got a little teaspoon or a hypodermic needle and you put little drops in 1,000 of those 1 million-gallon tanks, that would be 1 part per billion. Now to get to trillions, you have to times that by another 1,000. So it works out to be 1 million. So if you had 1 million Jamestown tanks and you took a couple atoms of couple of water molecules and dropped them in each one of those 1 million-gallon tanks, you'd have 1 part per trillion. So why am I bringing this up? I've talked about this before. This is incredibly hard to do, to detect, monitor, to treat, to remove chemicals down that small is not easy, and it's certainly not cheap. So as a ratepayer, you really need to keep that in mind when you see these things that come down the pike, the TUD and everybody else, Twinar, Groveland, Cold Springs. We have to abide by these rules that that's where a lot of your water bill goes to, is complying with these rules that come out of Sacramento. So, like I say, I just got this on Thursday, parts per trillion. That is incredibly, incredibly small. So keep that in mind next time you get your water bill and think about the things that we're doing here, because it's not easy, and it's incredibly detailed. Anyway.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's what I've been talking about now for quite some time, and that's why I'm working on that PFAS thing for our biosolids. This is unmandated or unfunded
Unfunded mandates, exactly.
And this is what I've been afraid of for quite some time. It's now starting to get here, so thanks for bringing that up. Okay, you're next.
What did I get wrong?
Public to know, PFAS. Do have it, wastewater. After we use the water in our frying pan, wash our jacket, whatever. There's no chemical or as health effects. Can't come up with zero, so they come up with analytical equipment. I got been through this. Around. That's
That's right.
I've got nothing.
You're up.
Okay, I was absent from the last meeting, unfortunately, so due to a family emergency, so we've got a few things that from last month that I'd like to mention. On June the 12th, I attended the MCRWA conference at Black Oak on the 12th of June. Then on the 17th of June, I attended as a stone, to quote our president, for the Water Committee. And then at 10 o'clock, the Sewer Committee was scheduled. So I was a member of that committee chaired by Director Hollis. So that's it.
Okay. 6:26, meeting with GM and crew, Pelton Wheel Project. 6:26, PFAS team meeting. Funny, I should have ended a team meeting about PFAS. I'm telling you, I'm trying to stay out in front of this. I want to know when it's coming. Try and fend it off best I can. Anyway, 6:30. Meet with lead staff person, once again about the Pelton Wheel Project. 7:1, meeting with GM, agenda and TUD issues. 7:2, attend Tuolumne County Natural Resources Committee meeting. Nothing really there to be able to tell you folks about. Was sort of a what would you call it, reorganizational, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about those meetings. Oh, did I say that? 7:3, attend Tuolumne County Town Hall That was interesting. That was put on by, one of the board supervisors, the new one. And it was about, issues with the environmental health department. And I went there thinking it was gonna be septic tanks, development issues, things along that line. And I was amazed. I was completely surprised. It was all about restaurants and all the problems they're having with environmental health. So I don't know what's going on down there at the county, but boy, oh boy, I got an earful. Supervisor Holland got an earful. They were there with pitchforks and torches, and they let them know that they were very unhappy. So, at any rate, I'll leave it at that. But I'm glad to see that we've got our ship running in a straight line and straight up. We don't have pitchforks and torches around here. All right. Anybody else? Anything from the community? No? If not, then I will close the meeting at 9:51.